All right. We'd like to welcome everyone to our November Crucial Conversations. This month's conversation is Dr. Martin Luther King's unfulfilled dream, the fight for economic justice. As we roll into the last weekend before voting this Tuesday, we need to make sure that we are fighting not just for our civil rights, but we need to make sure that we also fight for our economic freedoms. All right? Everybody ready? Everybody excited? I mean, we talk about freedom and money. Normally when you talk to black people about money, people get a little bit more excited. Y'all staring at me like I'm about to ask y'all for something. I don't want to ask you for no money. I want you to go ahead and get some. All right? All right, so real quick, we want to thank everyone for joining us for this powerful edition of Crucial Conversations today. We've heard a lot about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a civil rights leader. But what many forget, or what history conveniently skips over, is what Dr. King was fighting for when he was assassinated. It wasn't just civil rights, it was economic justice. In the final years of his life, Dr. King began calling out the deep inequities in wealth, income, and opportunity. He knew that without economic power, political rights only wouldn't be enough to truly liberate black people in America. In fact, his last major campaign, the Poor People's Campaign, wasn't about marching in the streets. It was about marching to Washington and demanding economic resources for the most oppressed communities in this country. But here's what we need to reflect on as a people. Before integration, we had something we don't have now, a community. We had our own stores, doctors, lawyers, insurance companies, cab services, cleaners, nightclubs, grocery stores. We circulated our dollars. We lived together, did business with each other, and protected one another. Places like right here in Richmond, Jackson Ward, were once called the Black Wall Street of the South. We had power, not just pride. But since integration, we've slowly given up on that. We have got access to their stores, but we lost ours. We got jobs in their companies, but we stopped building our own. We gained entry, but we lost ownership. Dr. King was shifting to ask for ownership, economic power, and wealth creation, because jobs, while very important, are not the same as owning. A job puts you in their company, ownership puts you in charge. Right here in Richmond, we have the perfect example. The historical district of Jackson Ward, once called the Black Wall Street of the South, thriving with black-owned banks, theaters, insurance companies, grocery stores, and so much more. But in the 1950s and beyond, highways were built, primarily through black neighborhoods, displacing thousands of black-owned homes and businesses. Jackson Ward lost more than 1,000 homes and 7,000 residents due to highway construction. We traded building our own systems for building their roads. We accepted jobs in construction, highways, assembly, but we lost generational businesses that passed wealth from one generation to the next. And now, we spend over $1.8 trillion a year as a people. But our dollars bounce very low within comparison. Our money doesn't stay in our community more than 6 hours. More than 6 hours. That's how long we keep money in our own community. And just for reference, Jewish dollars circulate 18 times before leaving their community. Asian American dollars circulate 10 times before leaving their community. White American dollars, 8 to 12 times. But us, lucky if we get once. That means our spending is power for everybody but us. So understand that again. Spending $1.8 trillion is not a power for us. It's power for everybody but us. Dr. Claude Anderson said in his book, Powernomics, black people are the only group that doesn't use their capital to build their own community. He compares black empowerment to a five-story building. The foundation of that five-story building is economics. Second is politics. Third, justice. Fourth, media. And fifth, education and culture. But we're trying to fight for justice on the third floor with no foundation under us. We boycott for civil rights. We protest for justice. We march for laws. But we rarely demand what Dr. King turned his focus to: money, business, and wealth. We've been stuck fighting for inclusion while others are fighting for ownership. And I get it. Many of us see capitalism as evil because of what's been done to us through slavery and capitalism. Redlining was capitalism. Mass incarceration is capitalism. But that's exactly why we must learn to participate in capitalism on our terms. Because if we don't use capital, we become victims of someone else's version of it. It's not about greed. It's about using our dollars for righteousness, to fund our schools, to support our elders, to empower our youth, to protect our culture, and to serve the needs and interests of our community. That starts with where we spend and where we build. Here at Trinity, we're doing our part with the Trinity Business Directory, a way to spotlight and support black-owned church members who own businesses. But we need more than support. We need strategy. When our church had fewer resources, they still created schools, they helped build businesses and help them get off the ground. They offer credit and mutual aid. But when investment drops, the ripple effect is felt in everything from youth programs to community outreach to economic empowerment. We talk about reclaiming businesses, yes, but we must also reclaim investment in our own institutions so communities have a foundation. The question is, where is the money going? If we are giving money outside of our community, supporting systems that do not support us, then we are perpetuating economic dependency. And when we boycott, that's what we're showing. We're showing an overwhelming economic dependency. If you have a talent or a skill, I beg you, start a business. If you're already self-employed, I beg you, level up and become a business owner. If you're already a business owner, mentor someone, invest in black causes, and step into political spaces to protect our interests. Let's stop asking for seats at tables where we are always served last. Let's start building our own tables. We need to become the funders, the job creators, and the policy influencers. Dr. King once said, "What good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford a hamburger?" Let's not let his economic dream go unfulfilled. Let's build, let's buy, let's circulate, let's own, and let's do it together. All right? Y'all excited? Y'all with me? Y'all still following me? All right. So now, let's introduce our panel. And I thank everyone for coming out today. Taking time on your Sunday to stay back. All right? We got some people, I know, we got some shy people. It's going to be their first time or acting like their first time speaking in public. So y'all bear with them. I run my mouth all the time. All right? So first, we have Miss Dana Briggs.
Testing, testing. Thank you, Deacon Juan, and good morning, everyone. My name is Dana Briggs. I live right here in the city of Richmond. I grew up in Northside. I am an author and what I like to call a vendor partnership strategist. I've been a wedding event planner for about 20 years, and I like to be the middleman to bring vendors together, turning ideas and opportunities into income.
Next, we have Miss Janice Washington.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Janice Washington for Janice Washington Creations. LLC. I am an event and design planner for corporations and other individuals. I strive on being excellent in what I do. I thank God for giving me the innovation of wonderful ideas and concepts that I come up with. And I love to promote other young ladies who's in my field there if they want to start a business of design and just glorifying God whatever I do. Thank you.
Now we have our, I like to say our very own, 'cause this is where I met her, Miss Rose Fauntleroy.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for tuning in today. I am Rose Fauntleroy, the visionary founder of Rose's Media Group International and the second season success with AI. I look at what you said, Juan, about Dr. King saying, what's the use in having a seat at the table if you can't afford to put anything on the table? In this season that we are in now, with the invention and the forward thinking of AI, there's no longer the table in front of us. The table has moved to the cloud, and it's now digital. And now is the time that we capitalize on that. So with over 25 years in the legal industry, with over 5 years in the artificial intelligence industry, it's time that we level up and start those businesses, because this is going to be the greatest wealth transfer in history, and we need to be there for it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I even heard somebody say the other day that AI is black people's reparations, but yeah, we'll jump to that later. Next, we had a future here at Trinity, Ms. Jakira Sanders.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jakira Saunders. I'm born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, graduated from Henrico High School and Virginia Commonwealth University, VCU. I actually got my calling for public health when I traveled to a service trip to Jamaica, and I know we're all in prayer for Jamaica right now. Went out there for about a week and was able to travel door to door, go to various schools, about 40 schools, host health fairs, and serve that community. I then went on to get my master's in public health in Atlanta, and I just saw how the community always came together. It was always people who looked like me, black face people, brown face people, beautiful curly hair, just going out into the community and supporting one another. And I felt like when I was back home, I didn't see that camaraderie as much unless I was at church. And so I figured, why not come back to my hometown and bring that same type of energy here? So I started a health and wellness business, got out into the community, started doing coaching classes and fitness classes, and from there, you know, that's where I'm driving. But my additional purpose is with programming and strategy. So right now I'm overseeing a program that highlights the water crisis throughout the southeast and northern region of America. So if you guys know anything about what's going on in Flint or even in Virginia right now with contaminated water, that's also a major issue that I'm overseeing. And that's a bit about me. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, it's my brother from another. Anybody knows being an entrepreneur in our community, it can get very dark and lonely. So this is one of the brothers that when we hit those spaces, we can just get together and chop it up about things that probably don't nobody understand unless you jumped out into the entrepreneur field. And that's my brother, Aaron Turner.
Thank you. Diggin' Juan, me and Diggin' Juan go back before he was a digging a few months ago. So we have to go far back. And my name is Aaron Turner, like you said. I'm a entrepreneur as well as a motivation speaker. I own several businesses, a commercial cleaning business for almost 26 years now. Financial professional, own an insurance business, Turn Time Financial Group, which I specialize in life, annuities, and so forth. I deal with real estate as well, so I'm a serial entrepreneur, I guess you could say. So I think that's it. And again, thank you Thank you being on panel with these ladies. And okay, let's do it.
All right, you heard them. Let's do it. All right, so we're going to move on to our panel section where I ask you guys some questions. Everybody can answer. One person can answer. That's cool. Don't feel pressured, but definitely we want to make sure that we let people know the importance of business and economics. All right? After we have our questions, I'll leave some room at the end of the conversation. If anyone in the room has any questions, any feedback, ultimately, like I said, this is called Crucial Conversations. It's not called Crucial Speech. It's not called Crucial Lecture. It's Crucial Conversations. So at the end, we do want to hear from people here. We do want to have other inputs involved. All right? So y'all make sure y'all stay with me. Keep the energy high. And remember, I'm in the pulpit of a Southern Baptist church. So if you don't talk back to me, we'll be here all day. Y'all want to get out here, talk back to us, all right? Let my panelists know that you're feeling them and you appreciate them coming out, all right? All right, so first question. What did Dr. King mean when he shifted his focus from civil rights to economic justice, and how should that change how we advocate today?
Okay, so it's me. Well, hello, everybody, again. Y'all sitting out there, but y'all need to react because, as Juan said, we're in a Southern Baptist church, and we like dialogue back and forth. And I'd love for you to talk to me. Well, I believe, looking at today, because 1968 was 57 years ago, things change, and we have to change with it. Dr. King shifted at that time because what's the use in having civil rights if you did not have any economic freedom? That's why I believe we built our own businesses. We built those in our communities to serve our communities. In coming forward to today, we have to change with technology. I'm really big into technology and AI. The reason is because it is something that everyone can learn and partake in the right, ethical, and secure way. But it's a leveling of the playing field. Everyone says that AI is going to replace us humans. It can't. AI is just like when the internet was invented. Everyone was afraid of that at first. But it's only as good as the person who's programming it. Be that person. And that will bring your economic revelation.
Coming from just all about community aspects, I feel Dr. King once said that having rights without resources, you're still stuck. And I'm a firm believer in being a good neighbor. And I don't know everything, but if I can point someone in the right direction, if I can bring them on board for something and we learn it together, that's a win. So if you've got the resources and you know someone else can benefit from it more or less than you can, share it. We can't be gatekeepers because there are other communities and they will share and share and share to a complete stranger. And we're so worried in our communities about someone getting ahead of us. The resource is the resource. Your recipe for how you get to the end zone is your own recipe.
I concur, Dana. Being an events planner, it's very hard because it's very competitive because I have my white counterparts who are very successful in this business. As being a black woman, I'm very proud to say that God has allowed me to own my own inventory. I don't have to rent from Potty Perfect, some of the other rental company, Classics. If you want dinnerware, then you go there. But when it comes to linens and all that type of thing, I have it. And I'm thankful to God that I do. And when they see me and they approach me that I'm a black woman, because it might just say Janice Washington. And when they see who Janice Washington is and they see that I'm a black woman, oh, she has her own products, I'm beginning to have those rental companies calling me to ask me to rent. And I'm like, if I was in the same predicament, you wouldn't want to rent to me on a personal level. I would have to really pay and negotiate, with you. So it's very hard in this business, and I'm proud to say that I will not lose my own identity to be what they want me to be or look like they want me to be, because that's my power. And with my power, I know that I can stand up against them with the grace of God and know who I am and what I have that God has allowed me to have. So I'm really thankful for that.
Hello? I want to share that when my grandparents were growing up, because I'm a 90s baby, so, sitting at the foots of my grandparents and hearing their stories of when they were growing up about how they couldn't go into certain restaurants, how they had to be served from the back door, things like that. Now working in a program that focuses on the water crisis, we're restoring contaminated water bottle fill stations, fountains, things like that. And it always takes me back to the times when, we see these colored versus whites only water fountains, right? And before that, there were likely facilities that didn't even have water fountains. You just had to go out and drink out of the hose or something like that for our black schools. And so every day when I'm working on these projects, I'm thinking about, wow, like even today, there are these underserved communities, underserved schools that don't get the testing that they need to even find out if the water is clean or not while they're still serving children. Same with daycare, same with recreational facilities. I recently walked into a recreational facility and they still had the out of order signs up. I think that sign was up for about a year now. And I know that's common, especially in the Black community, because we're so focused on serving the kids and serving the community, but sometimes we have to focus on that infrastructure as well. And so there is funding. I know, right now there's a government shutdown and we don't necessarily want to rely on government funding, but there is state funding. There's funding appropriated for certain communities and certain organizations for these types of projects. So if you have any concerns about your schools, your daycares, your children's schools or daycares, or your recreational facilities, and you wonder if they have that clean water, go out and ask your utilities workers or go out and ask your principals or whomever, have you guys tested the water this year? If they don't know, maybe call the state and ask them, but there's funding available so that those places can get a replaced water bottle fill station that has a filter, and they can provide a maintenance plan so that they can come back in a year from now and make sure that they restore that water system so that you won't have any concerns about if your children or you are drinking from a clean water fountain. So I would say that's something that represents Dr. Martin Luther King's economic justice.
Yes, I 1,000% agree with all the ladies on the panel of what they said. And I want to definitely point out the technology piece with AI. Things like that, we are being scared of AI, just like the sister said. We get this fear that, it's going to replace us. This is where we're losing the game as a community. Because when everybody else around us are making moves, we sitting back being scared. And right here, we in the house of God, and we don't preach fear, but why we in the community have fear of changes. And this is why, as a community, we're being left behind. And pinpoint the sister right beside me about researching and funding. I've been an entrepreneur for well over 20-odd years, 25 years, and it's funding for pretty much everything. It's there. But we're not doing it. We're not doing the research. And they used to say years ago, the things that hiding with black folks is in books. And now it's on the internet. I mean, we have it at the touch of our phones and computers. It's funding, it's grant funding for pretty much everything you can think of. But we're not doing it. So we're long away from blaming a man, the holding us back. And yes, it is racism out there. It's definitely still out there, but it's also information as well. And I think we as a community are not doing it. And so getting back with Dr. King and pushing the economics, and just like we're in the voting season and all the campaigns, I got 2 texts this morning, on my phone. And voting is wonderful. Voting, we do need to vote. But I would say we vote, and what's next? What's next? And we're the only community, I'm gonna end it because I know you take 2 minutes. so we're the only community that put all our eggs in a voting basket and very little in empowering ourselves. We got immigrants coming here every single day. We got communities over South Side, they're coming over North Side now, communities, and they're not putting everything in that voting basket. They're building their own communities, and we used to do that. So Dr. King shifted his mindset in his latest thinkings and speeches, and that's what it is. Well, we have to do that. We have to continue that part of the legacy.
I'm glad you said that because that leads us to our next question. But real quick, the part of how does that change how we advocate today? I want to make the example of we don't have any economic power issues on the ballot. None. None whatsoever. Now, if we go back to the 2020 campaign, we had to decide between Mike Bloomberg and Joe Biden. And in the black community, we were torn because one wrote the 94 crime bill and the other one created stop and frisk in New York. So we were torn between who do we forgive? Who do we forgive? Which was a civil thing because both of those issues were around crime. We decided to forgive Joe Biden for the 94 crime bill, even though we still got people coming home from the 90s that he put in jail just because he was close to Obama, right? But Mike Bloomberg was the only person who stood on that stage during that election that actually had an economic plan specifically for black folks that he was already using in New York with success. So when we say how do we advocate differently, we just can't keep asking the same person that for 400 years hasn't treated us right to please treat me right. At some point, we got to say, since you won't treat me right, what are you going to do so we can build our home? All right, and that leads to our very next question, and we're going to use Richmond as an example. So when we look at places like Jackson Ward, what were some of the greatest economic strengths that we had in our black communities before integration? What were some of the strengths that we had before integration, and how did we lose that momentum we had before integration, and what and can we learn from that loss? I know that's one we have, and nobody want to touch on it.
So, wow. I don't want to be first. You don't want to be first? Oh, I get it. Oh, you go. Okay.
Deacon Juan, can you present the question one more time?
What were some of the greatest economic strengths we had in black communities before integration? How did we lose that momentum? And what can we learn from losing that momentum?
Okay, first let me preface with I was born in 72. So I don't have a lot of insight. However, just hearing practices from my grandmother and different stories that they would share, I really and truly feel like before integration, our people move with intention. And they intentionally spent their dollars locally, they hired locally, they tipped within their community, they referred within their community because it came back. And whether it's with your dollars or with your bartering system, I firmly believe they piggyback off each other so everybody could win. And I think somehow along the way we lost that trying to impress people outside of our communities who gave not one thought about how we progressed and how we up-leveled our own selves, personally or within our businesses. So I feel like we need to get back to being intentional, and stop shopping with emotion, and stop worrying about the next best thing. because AI has been here for a long time before it became mainstream. And they don't want us to know about it. But if we intentionally, collectively share the little bit of knowledge that we know with each other, do you know how powerful that can be within our own communities? Miss Janice just sat here and said that she has her own decor. I didn't know that. But I promise you, I've been doing so much business with them, but they'll never refer me. I'll never be one of their planners, and I've been doing this for 20 years. They will go over top of me and refer somebody else that they know that looks like them, while me and Miss Janice over here has the knowledge. We've been in these venues, and we know what we're doing, but they will overlook us. And that's because we're so busy trying to play the bigger vision of the game and forgetting about our own communities. So I think we need to be more intentional.
You hit it, Dinah. You hit it. I used to hear my grandmother say that in the community back then, if you had a skill, if you were doing hair, everyone in the community had their beautician in the neighborhood. If there was someone who was educated in the medical field, they had their own little doctors they would run to, even if it was, as we say, black folks remedies. They all worked. I can remember my grandmother stating that in the back of the day, when the man in funeral home, when they were all living on 28th Street in Church Hill, Doug Wilder parents, my grandmother, all of them grew up on 28th Street, and they had homes. And what they would do is they would feed, each family would feed one another each day so they could save their money. And I look at them with amazement, and I said, if we could only not do that, but emulate it in some type of way, it would be wonderful, because we spend our dollars on the outside. And when I'm talking to my counterparts, as far as my neighbors who are Chinese to have beauty salons and who's selling to our own black people, they're making billions of dollars. And if we had any type of company that would sell those products, but not get to the point, we as blacks, where we say, oh, I've made it, and you want to bring your prices up on your products. No, that's the wrong thing to do, because then you turn your people on you. And I find that some of our people will do that. Once they get ahead, they don't look back from which they came from. And this is another point that I wanted to make. Dr. Walker, everybody knew, walked with Dr. Martin Luther King. He was my neighbor, Dr. Wyatt T. Walker. And I would sit there some days to go to his home with him and his wife, and I would talk, and I would ask him, what really did Dr. King want for us? What really, tell me truly, what did he want? A fair game. He said fair game, fair opportunities, that we can live in a neighborhood wherever we wanted to go. That was his main focus, to make a decent income, a guaranteed income. But not only that, whatever gift God has given you, take that to be your other income. Don't rely on that one job that you have to make it. Use your creative thinking and thought of what God has given you. Everyone here has a gift from God. Take that gift and create something with it to have income. You have to do it, because you cannot rely on your jobs. Look what's happening. This man has stripped, government jobs like he has lost his mind. But I really do think the reason why he's done it, because he know black people were making it in the government as a government employee. And that's why I think he cut all of those jobs out. And if you had a gift, you could be generating income from that. So I encourage everyone, whatever your gift is that God has given you, please use it to the glory of God and get a business. Just hone your skills. Teach, learn from someone else who's in that field. It's a community thing. I'm willing to help any young girl who has a design in their brain, and they can just go somewhere, and people can't do what I can do. I can go in a room and it's empty, and I can see something that you cannot see. So let's just be mindful to keep our dollars in our own community. And even if they fail, don't badmouth them. Everybody have a bad day. I have a bad day. And I have my employees to tell me, oh, Miss Jan, you forgot to do something, and I was like, oh, thank you. Because if I didn't have them, they're my backbone. They are my backbone. My employees are my backbone, and I love them. I love them gratefully because they look out for me. They really do.
I'm going to ask you for the question one more time
All right.
because I want to make sure I answer it correctly.
All right.
Well, not correctly, but
When we
answer it.
look at places like Jackson Ward, what were some of the greatest economic strengths of the black communities before integration? How did we lose that momentum? And what can we learn from losing that momentum?
Okay, I did not grow up here in the city. I grew up in the country. And in the country, we each depended on and helped each other. I can remember young women coming to my mom and dad's house for my mother to teach them how to cook for their husbands, how to keep house. But now getting to the city, okay? In Jackson Ward, we had banks. We had our own banks. We had our own resources. We had community where, as you said, Janice, that each one taught one. I've known you for how long?
Oh, for years, baby.
Okay. I've seen you around for how long? I did not know either of you had businesses or what kind of businesses you had. And I'm sure the same here. And that's where we get away from each other. Okay? And I'm not going to say it's us versus them, because when it's us versus them, we lose our power yet again. Once we were segregated, we had to depend on each other. And we're getting back to that now, because if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat your history. Okay? So we're moving back to that now. But once you could see that you could integrate each shiny object, each shiny thing drew your attention. And you got away from being with each other and being in community because you were suppressed or oppressed for so long. It felt like freedom to be able to experience everything else out there. So we kind of lost that. I don't say that we should just stay within our community, but we use the resources that we learned and we bring them back to our community. And I think Dr. King advocated for that.
Most definitely.
Real quick, I'll just say I did grow up in Jackson Ward, Wickham Court area, both of those areas, and obviously not before integration. But one thing that I recall growing up was that there was a sense of community. I mean, there weren't always positive things going on in the community, but there was a sense of community. We all stuck together. There was, that one house that you go to get your candy, your chips, your Kool-Aid that everybody knew and could trust. There was that one house that you go to that you know that you're going to stay there and you get your hair done and you can watch TV. There was that one house that you go to just for childcare. You can leave your kids there while you go to work. So I would say getting back to that community building, and even today, if I were to see someone who I grew up with back at that time, I would recall, we would recall each other and remember that. But from the sense of what we could bring back, I would just say, kind of like what these women said over here, is bringing back community, bringing back the intentionality, and bringing back that intergenerational fellowship. Because I can see as well that we've kind of gotten separated, where we have the younger groups, and then we have the babies, and then we have the elders, and everything is very separated. And we have to get back to also respecting our elders and wanting to learn and listen from them. And that's why I'm always at church, because I'm like, I know I don't know it all. And when I'm having these conversations with my friends, if we all saying the same thing, then that can't be all of it. So I know I need to go out and hear from other people, hear other perspectives, and learn my history, again, so that I don't repeat things from the past. So yeah.
Yes, I actually grew up here in Richmond and studied, the Jackson War with Maggie Walker, and so getting back to the question, and the sister said the bank was the power. So now we're talking about economics. So the bank definitely was the power. We're an insurance company. And also hearing stories from relatives and even reading about it, that getting back to the community, that we helped each other. So just like the sister said, if I know how to do hair, it was somebody there who already had a hair business. So we sat down and that person taught us. And even the bank, Maggie Walker, when people was in times of needed loans or so forth and stuff, they went to that bank and they made sure that they got the finance to start that business or, start that laundromat or whatever the case may be. So when we got into more civil rights movement and King movement, and not only King, just all the others, and we want to integrate with other folks, we lost our economic edge. And I think we still, to this day, in 2025, still trying to recover from that. And we having positive strives, platforms like this. And I notice some of the younger people are more on the entrepreneur type thinking, and with the technology, the AI, the internet. So we're actually moving to that again. So that's a positive with that. But again, the constant I've been hearing this on the panel is unity and being self-sufficient and learning from each other and use our own resources. Because once again, we have it all in our community. We don't have to ask anybody for anything. And especially now, we got the internet. I keep on going back to AI because that's very, very important and powerful. We got to stop being scared of growing. Growing will be uncomfortable, but we got to do it as a community. And I said it earlier, we're the only people who, as a community, don't move, and it's just to say, with intention. We don't move like that. We still sitting, waiting, and the big story with last week or so with the SNAP benefits, and then we get with the media saying, believing that our community is the ones who on SNAPs because they want to put out there that it's the single mom with 5 kids, the one who need the SNAP benefits, and the ones who taking the SNAP benefits, recipients of the SNAP benefits. That's not true. Do your research. Do not let the internet educate you fully. Do your research. And the research shows that most non-blacks are the ones based on SNAP benefits. So let's be clear. But getting back, we have to be self-sufficient. That's the bottom line. Way back when you had the Black Wall Street, we were talking about Jackson Ward here, Tulsa, Durham, North Carolina, all the Black Wall Streets that we had all across the country. We were self-sufficient. We didn't, just like Sister said, feeding each other. And me personally, put it out there, I actually feed, I think 3 families now. And again, not saying that you got to do a whole grocery bill, but a meal or two, a toilet or two around not only just the holidays, but this one day, you can adopt one family. Just imagine if everybody in our community adopt one family and say, hey, look, what you need. They might be short on your electric bill. Hey, I got you this month until you catch up. You may need a job. Hey, I know so-and-so down the street. They hiring. So that's what we got to get back to. We don't need $1 million to help us. Challenge one family and even that family can help you as well because, you're going to be in a situation that you may need. But getting back to what the sister said about everybody was feeding each other, we got to get back to that because what we have now, we just riding solo. If I got it, if I'm making 6 figures or better in my community, I got my cars, whatever, I don't care about you. And that's what we putting out there now. But we got to get back what we used to be, community and family.
Thank you. I appreciate all those answers. And I'm going to say this too because I'm only 53. I'm a 72 baby also. And being, from that era. No, I didn't grow up during integration, right? But I think it's a shame of how much stuff that we learned about Jackson Ward through other people when we live here. And I think that goes a lot to they don't want us to have this education. We have a whole festival called the 2 Street Festival that celebrates a street, and we have no idea of the real reason why we celebrating 2 Street. 2 Street was a marvel, and one of the things that Dr. King marched for, we had our own economy, and we had to get back to that. And we need to understand the biblical principle behind businesses and those things. And I look at it like abundance. If you have your own business, right? It's like a champagne. You ever seen the champagne tower? We got plenty of designers up here today, so I know y'all done built a couple of those before. But when you look at a champagne tower, right? You have one at the top, then you have 2, then you have 4, and you go all the way down like a pyramid, right? And the way it works is you pour champagne into that first cup. And once you pour champagne in that first cup, everything that overflows goes down to the rest of the cups. That's the biblical principle of abundance, and that's what we miss by not having our own businesses. That's what Richmond misses, not having places like Jackson Ward, because now we don't have that one place that's pouring into everybody else. Now, we sit at the bottom of that pyramid. We're not even at the top of the pyramid, and we sitting there thirsty and dry, mouth all dry, begging people to give us a little taste of that flute. But guess what? They're not pouring into us. They pouring into them. And this is the thing. Racism to the side. That's what you're supposed to do. They look out for their own. We got to look out for us. That's the missing link. It's not that they're wrong for looking out for each other. Now, they wrong for tripping up the game. If we playing Monopoly, give me my 200 when I pass go, they wrong for that. But they're not wrong for playing Monopoly. They're not wrong for putting and buying stuff on the board. We're wrong because we keep playing Monopoly and waiting for them to give us something. They ain't gonna give us nothing. Yep, we have to build our own. So I just want to throw that out there. But 3, I want to talk about the myth of black buying power. The myth, because right now it's a myth, and we need to turn it to a reality. But how does the myth of black buying power create a false sense of empowerment if we're not circulating that power within our community?
Unfortunately, I think they look at it, or we look at it as a myth. I don't look at it as a myth because I know my power. I know my dollar's power. Because there are so many other things outside of our communities that catch our attention. Society has programmed us to think that if we focus on us, we're wrong for that. We're selfish for that. When we are playing by their rules instead of playing by our own rules and creating our rules. That's the myth of that. Because if you look at our power, there's a movie coming out soon. It's a black movie. I'm not going to name it. But that movie will make more money in that first week because of our dollars. But for whatever reason, we don't see that power. We dilute our power because we want to fit in everywhere else instead of bringing in to our own.
I know my power. I don't think it's a myth. But I'm going to get to the point when you look at, can I say the rappers? I'm going to use them for an example. The rappers have made designers wealthy by wearing their product. We as black people, if we are poor, we would spend our money on looking good instead of saving. One thing my mother taught me, whoever you are, you always find those friends that work for designers so you can get what you want. And that's what I do. I know that's called strategy. So when some people ask me and they say, "Oh, you look, honey, I'm not buying this." I have friends that work for designers, and that's how I receive. And I say, "Okay, Lord, thank you," because I'm not giving them my money because I know it's just their name. They had to struggle to get where they are today, but they use the black wrapper so that they can wear their garments to make thousands of dollars. Tell me what we have very few black designers. The ones that we have, our black people don't buy their clothes. FUBU went out a long time ago. What was one of the others? They went out, but the white designers, they're still there because the rappers are wearing their clothing, their shoes, everything. But I'm not going to give them my money. I'm not going to do it. So what I did is I maneuvered, like I tell all young people. You find you someone, just like my mom used to tell me, find a plumber that you know, find somebody, a workman, a craftsman. If you have friends like that, you can always get something done at your house. So that's what I do. I find and try to be around people that I know that can help me. And that's what you do. You don't take your money that you work hard for and just turn it around and give it to someone else and you're not making any investments. And then the second thing I want to say is that our white counterparts have been living on life insurance. A lot of us blacks don't know that. They take those policies and they don't have to borrow against them, really. They use that to buy their daughters their cars, their homes, and everything. But we as black, we don't know anything about that. But my mother taught me that at an early age about life insurance and what life insurance can do for you. So what I did, my husband and I, we started doing that thing of buying life insurance. So if, my daughter want a car, I'm going to take that money from there. I'm not going to use my own money that I work hard for. So we have to know strategies and where to look for certain things in life. And that's what like I told my husband, everybody want to be wealthy in this world. Everybody don't want to struggle. When you have a bill, you want to be able to pay it. You know what I mean? You want to live. When you want to go to the store and go to the grocery, you don't want to have to say, I don't have enough money, in the bank to do this or to help someone else. But when you have your last dollar, and I truly believe this, and you hand it to somebody else, God would double that money, and I've seen it happen several times. But you got to think with strategy. You have to know people. You have to. In this game of life, you have to do it, because if you don't, you'll get lost. And the crossfires are trying to make it in this world. But you have to know people that care. Because, there are some people take your kindness for weakness, and you have to show them, hey, I'm not weak at all. I might let you get away with certain things, but after a while, I'm going to speak up and I'm going to tell you. But that's what we have to learn, strategies and how to make money.
Could you present the question one more time?
The question, how does the myth of black buying power create a false sense of empowerment if we're not circulating that power within our own communities?
So I feel the myth comes from us getting in our own way. And because most of us as business owners offer a service, oftentimes our pricing, our contracts, our methods and procedures, our structure, our systems are not in place where they should be, but we don't have the support system to sit down and be vulnerable and say, can you look at my contract, tell me what I'm missing? Because the person you're sitting down with may or may not want to see you win. As business owners, most oftentimes in our community, our family is not going to support us because it's our little hobby. But in the other communities, whether it's a hobby that you done started 5 different times, 5 different ways, they're going to support you if that's what you want to do. But they're also going to give you the resources. So I think we're in our own way. And I didn't realize that as a business owner until someone outside looking at how many events I was doing and came to me and said, you're an intern for your own business. There's no way you're making any money. And this was somebody that was on the outside, hadn't seen the first contract, she hadn't seen the first check handed to me, but she knew that my system was not in place to help me up-level my business. a complete stranger that from that day we have remained friends going forward, business friends. And she wants to see me win, and things that she doesn't have the know-how, I can help her with that. And we are in our own way. So that's where the myth comes from. We know where we want our dollars to go, but we second guess ourselves on what somebody else is going to think of us, how they're going to value us, and if not, they're going to take us seriously because, again, as business owners, some people look at it as a little hobby, and it's not.
Kind of to add on to what's already been said, and a challenge that I know that I had for a while is understanding and knowing our value, knowing the value of our own dollars. When I started my business, I felt like I had to do everything by myself. I didn't want people to see my mistakes. I didn't want anybody to read the contracts. I was kind of tiptoeing around it. But that kind of goes back to also just having that education of people do want to see you win. But you have to have the right people in your circle. You have to have the right people in that community, and you have to have that confidence in the value of your skills. If it is starting out as a hobby or you believe it to be a hobby, that just means you do it very well. And so you can turn it into a business, and you can bring people in to support you and to teach you those things that you may not see, teach you those blind spots that you have. And then also same thing with what Ms. Janice said about finding people who, can design things for you. If I know how to do hair, can you do my makeup? If I know somebody who can find you an outfit, can you watch my kids? What can we trade off on? What can we barter on? It doesn't always have to be that exchange currency of the dollar, but what skills can we trade? So that we can make sure that we're keeping our finances within our community.
Yes, the sister touched on, but she was actually touching on the life insurance, and which, that's one of my businesses that I do, and that's actually called the Rockefeller waterfall method that you borrow from your own policy. And this is something that in our community we don't know. And let me go back. The Rockefeller family, the wealthy family, they built their fortune on life insurance. They built it but we don't know that in our community. And I actually teach this. And also, not only that, you got Rockefeller, Walt Disney built most of Disney on life insurance. So a lot of things that we don't know. And going even further, the first owners of McDonald's started, the McDonald's Franchise Foundation was built on whole life insurance. So these are things we don't know. And strategy. So if we get into more of a wealth transfer, you got to be your insurance. We got to get into some type of real estate, whether purchase some land, homes, and technology. Those three things that we can do. We don't have to be a millionaire that we can do. I know relatives that, older relatives, they gone on now, they had rental properties. They weren't millionaires, but they left this earth with some money because they did their first home that they started, my aunt and uncle, and as the new turn, they flipped that house. They lived in there for some years, and they flipped that house, got another property. They lived into their 90s, and they had several properties and was very wealthy and still had jobs. Still had a 9 to 5. But going back to what somebody else said on the panel, you can have your 9 to 5. That's fine. And just what we've seen the sister say with the government shut down everything, these people, and I know a couple people personally in Northern Virginia who are not getting paychecks right now, but still have to report to work. I would be mad if I got to report to work and I'm still not getting paid just to keep my job. And that goes to, I won't say begging, but we got to get ourselves out of those positions. We got to be able to walk away from that job because we got something else on the side. And say, you know what? Y'all can do what y'all want to do. But I got these rental properties. I'm going to concentrate on my rental properties. If I feel like I'm going to get a 9 to 5, I'll go ahead. But we got to do it on our own terms. That's what we're missing. So, again, your insurance, your real estate, purchase some land. Land is not that expensive. Land is not expensive, man, and we got to get out these myths. Just going back to the myths. You know, we think that we got to be millionaires. Oh, well, you know, I don't have $1 million, do this. I don't have $1 million, do that. Those are things that we can do on, like I said, quote unquote, regular salaries. We don't have to be millionaires to do this. So it gets back to our education and teach one. I teach this all the time, but we got to get back to the thing. You know, we talk about bartering. You know, barter system. The sisters say, "Oh, hey, I'll do your hair, you know, and you do my nails." Things like that. And we got, you know, I see so many of us that have businesses. I would say we try to hit for the home run. You know, I got Juan coming here to use my service. Okay, you know, Juan be dressing nice, whatever. I'm gonna hit him hard. Juan, it's $1,000 for that service. That's what we do. But we got to stop doing that. Okay, you know, so what we need to do, Juan, come in here. I know Juan got a lot of resources. I say, hey, look, Juan, you know, you pay for the service, but hook me up with that guy I know that, you know, that can help me and blah, blah, blah. We got to use our information in our community together instead of trying to hit that home run, and then we get paid, and that's it. That's only one transaction. That's transactional. But let's do something that's going to further both me and Juan. And then, you know, and it grows. It grows. So that's how we build our wealth in our community.
Exactly. I agree with everyone and everything that was said. Now, when I say the myth of black buying power, right now, let's say this bottle of water represents $1.8 trillion, right? I have plenty of water. I can make sure that I don't go thirsty, right? But if I take this bottle of water and give everybody out there a sip of my water, when you hand this bottle back to me, do I have enough to sustain? That's the myth. The myth isn't the actual money. The money is real. The myth is saying that it's a power. And that's why when we boycott, we have to change our ask. We have to change our ask because what's happening is that we are not moving into the spaces of business that allow us to go into distribution, that allow us to go into another level of business. Like I said, you guys do decorating, designing. Fine. You can't decorate forever. But if you got a closet full of decorations, you can rent those decorations forever. Your kids can come rent those decorations forever. Your kids' kids can come. So do you see the difference? We have to stop thinking we can work our way out of everything. That's our natural slave programming. It's the mindset that we can work our way to wealth. And let's do the math, because we're here to learn. Most people say that rich is hitting $1 million a year, right? I think that's everybody's goal. If you had a job that paid you $100 an hour and you work full time, that only comes to $300 and something thousand per year before taxes. Before taxes. Now, all your friends know that you make $100 an hour full time, so now you got to have the Benz in the range in the driveway. Now you got to have a home and another community, right? So we took the 1.8 trillion and give it away. We keep giving it away. We have to find ways to keep that back in us. That's it. That shiny object. Do y'all know how the government keeps us going to work every day? They keep adding conveniences. Our comforts is what pushes inflation. Because guess what? Back in the day, you walked somewhere and got water. Right? So they built the pipeline and then they taxed you for your water. God gave you free water, but the government gave you a pipeline and it taxed you for it. we have to start understanding these shiny things they keep putting in front of us. When they buy a big house, they're not buying a big house to have a big house. They're buying a big house to create their own bank. If I build my own house and I'm $200,000 in between purchase and building, but the house is worth $500,000, I have $300,000 in equity. What we do is go get 4 jobs so we can go buy a $500,000 house, pay the $500,000 for it. You can't get a loan. You can't do anything with it. So we have to start having education. We need to start having these other things so that we can start having real power. When you boycott, understand, it's nothing wrong. You shouldn't give anybody your money that you don't feel like treats you right. At the same time, understand that when you boycott, you are showing a dependency. Because if you don't treat me right, I don't need to march about it. I'm just going to stop giving you my money. The problem is, if this piece of place don't make peace or they treat us wrong or talk to us wrong, so we don't want to do business with them, where it ain't no JoJo's Pizza over here. So even if we don't go to him, we'll go to somebody else. So it's a dependence to keep asking them for things. The only way to stop asking, the only way to get up off our knees and stop asking them, can we live? Can you treat us fair? Is through economics. And that's what Dr. King died for. Now, we're close to 1 o'clock, so these last couple of questions, 1 minute shooting drill. Y'all cool with that? Okay. All right. So, 4th question. Dr. Claude Anderson says, economics must come before politics. Do you agree, and why?
Economics before politics. I do agree. And the reason I agree is you can't influence politics unless you have some economics, unless you have some currency. And the currency may not always be cash. It may be influence. It may be resources. It may be who you know that will influence the political side. But you have to be bringing something to the table in order to get there. You can't, because politics, a lot of those stages are already set. They're set. They're set before it even gets to the voting box. Yes, we should vote. And I voted early and hope that you all did too. You should. But those stages are set. So how do you influence those stages? By your currency, by your money, by what you know, by what your resources are. So yes, I agree with that.
Absolutely correct. And another thing too, when I'm gonna bring this up, I have to. I love her dearly, and I call her auntie, when she was trying to bring the casino here, right? I'm gonna use an example with that. I do a lot of work with the country club, very wealthy people. They were discussing about the casino. I just kept my little mouth shut because I knew they already had their agenda, but they didn't know who I was. And well, she's a black woman with all this money, and she's going to be controlling Richmond, and they were saying all these kind of things. And lo and behold, I just sat there, didn't say a word, and I was like, these people talking about my aunt, So I know that they need me there, and I know they need me there because I'm the only designer that really kind of bring them business. There, a lot of the affluent doctors that I used to work with, because my field is in medical background, a lot of them are very wealthy. They are heart surgeons and so forth. And they want me to do their events. But they knew the ones that I'm personal with. And it was like, oh, they are talking about her. They don't know Janice. So I gave them my last day there after I heard what they had to say. Because right then and there, I know that they were trying to block her The agenda had already been set. And when I told them who I was and what she was to me, their mouth just dropped. The mouth dropped. And that's what made me think, even if you have the money, if they don't want you to succeed here in Richmond, that's when the politics, they all get together and they try to block you regardless if you have money, and especially if you're black and then you're a black woman at that. So to say the least, I left and I let them know, no, you're not going to have my services. Little old Janice had power over them, and I'm little old Janice, and they have all this money, and I had power over them, and they lost about 10 to 15 jobs of people who wanted to use their facilities for their events. So that made me feel really good as being a black woman, little old Janice, y'all little designer here that y'all wanted to do your events, and I stopped them right there. They lost a lot of money because I was not going to let them, as I say, talk about my aunt like that when you don't know her. She was bringing revenue in this city. How many people can sweep a floor making $50,000 a year? A lot of people sweep a floor for $50,000 a year, you know, but I just couldn't stand to see them, and I saw how they work. You know, I was like, she has the money, but she can't get in because the white man don't want her to get in because they thought she would have power here in Richmond. So it's, again, even if you have the money and who you are, they'll try to stop you.
What was the question? Do we practice economics over politics, or should we?
Should economics come before politics, and why?
I believe it should, because I feel like practicing economics is being a good neighbor, right? When you're doing that, you're not gatekeeping, you're paying on time, you're showing them their value, right? So I feel like economics or practicing economics is not practicing charity, you're practicing partnership. Mm-hmm. And I really feel that that should come before politics.
I do agree as well. Economics come before politics, and I think about, again, the currency of time and the currency of showing up to those PTA meetings, showing up to committee meetings, showing up, being a part of a board. How we spend our money also affects those things as well. So when I think about, again, just the currency of time, I guess, the currency of us showing up, how we use our time, how we spend our time, that will influence how, that ultimately influences your political idea, even if you don't realize that value. So yeah.
I'm gonna actually go a different route with it. I think we should move at the same time with it, with economics, well, political. Because the sister made a great point when you're talking about the casino situation, and the amount of money that it took for the casino not to happen. They spent roughly on $150,000 compared to a lot of the money that Ms. Hughes spent to try to make things happen with, you know, the different things. Only $150,000 of people that didn't look like us, that, you know, if y'all know, had the plane flying like no casino and all this type of stuff. Only $150,000 compared to millions. So, like you say, if they don't want us there, money don't matter. If they don't want us in the room, money don't matter. And going back to another situation, as we all know, we're in a black church, that politicians always come to this black church when election season. It's not necessarily the economics, it's more so how we move. They know, like, as a community, you know, it's not the money that they come in. They come in to influence us at that same time of year when they want our votes. So that's why I say it's necessary to me. This is my personal opinion. We do need economic, but I think we need to move at the same time with it. We need to have a political basket, whether it's building with the economics as well. And I think, you know, we talking about Black Wall Streets and these different black communities in the past, they built the economics, and later on, as the civil rights came on, we started getting into the White House and King talking to, the president and different things like that. But also at the same time, we were having the Montgomery bus boycott, shutting the economic system down, the bus system down, and that's economic. So I think we just need to move at the same time, with it.
I like all those answers because I think all those are very true. I agree with Dr. Claude that we should focus on economics prior to politics. Politics can't be far behind. And the reason why I say that, because even when we look at things like the bus boycott, again, what I just said about boycotting, it showed a dependency. At a time, we didn't need a dependency. We had the wrong ask. We had black bus companies. We kept asking, could we ride their bus?
Yeah.
What we missed in that whole story was how many black bus companies closed after that. And this is why I said the economics have to be involved, and I suggest first, because when we step into politics, we need to make sure that our politicians are speaking to things that empower us, not stroke our egos. Because if you oppress a person long enough, anything sounds good. You give me anything, like you done had my head underwater all this time. When I come up for air, if you give me anything, it feels good. We need to get out there. We need politicians to say, hey, if you give us Section 8, cool. How are you going to empower this person to not be in that situation in 5 years? If you're giving a person SNAP, cool, we need that. But how are you going to empower that person not to be in that situation in 5 years? That's true power. And in order for that to happen, economics has to be part of our politics. All right, and the last question, again, 1 minute. I got to stick to that myself. All right. As we honor Dr. King and his fight for economic justice, what role should entrepreneurship play in that shift?
That's a loaded question, but I'll keep it to a minute. I really feel like, and this may be unpopular opinion, and if we are recording, I might go live and viral. Black Restaurant Week. I feel like because there's a regular Restaurant Week and so much attention shown to that, Black Restaurant Week came up to show light on our hospitality industry for African Americans. I get it. But that 1 week, I feel like, ruins those businesses from a standpoint of they're overwhelmed because everybody is packed in there and they don't know how to handle that. 2, they can't tell you, like, really what it's going to, what my marketing is, what's the end result. And 3, you should not have to pay to play. I don't care what week it is. Regular Restaurant Week does not charge those businesses to be a part of it. However, they do have a list of checkpoints that they want you to go by. Your menu can't be more than $35.52, don't quote me. A portion of it is going to feed more. You can't have your own set menu. You need to put your hours. So they have a whole list of things. But Black Restaurant Week, the food truck's got to pay a fee. The brick and mortar's got to pay a fee. If you want to do a pop-up, you got to pay a fee. Why? And I try to support these businesses the week before and the week after, because during, I'm going to be PO'd. And I feel like the organization, I'm on the outside looking in, if they're having classes to help these businesses grow, they need to do better, because I have not been to a Black Restaurant Week yet. That's my two. That was a
Yeah, that's very loaded. That's very hard, Warren. Oh, wow. I get disappointed sometimes when I look at other businesses and see how things are ran. You took that right out of my mouth. I'm disappointed in that week myself. So much is asked of us when we are doing an event, and you see all the money that you put out to be involved, but then you don't see then you don't receive back. I think that's my problem with it. They ask more out of you, and you do more, but sometimes the way maybe Dana and I would construct it, it would be different, where everybody in the game will receive something in return, but they don't. And then after it's all over with, do they have more customers? And that, I believe Dana can say, no, it doesn't change. So what is the purpose of, really sometimes I feel, why do we do it? Sometimes that's just like at the Main Street station, when they have the concerts, the wedding expos and all of that. I used to do those. And then all of a sudden, I was like, it's only a few of us blacks here, and we put all our money out to do this thing. And it seems like sometimes I'm the only black one that they'll stand at the desk because they know of me. And then sometimes you try to say, well, why don't you go over here to my other brother or sister? They have the same business. But you're putting out and you're putting out and you're putting out and you don't receive. And I try not to do those anymore because they're like useless, because it's like you putting out but you're not receiving. And you get tired of that sometimes, and because you want to be paid, because you're worthy of it. And getting back to another thing that Dana said, when they look at us, this is not a hobby for me. This is a God-given gift, anointing that I have, even though I was in the medical field. But I make my money doing this, and I'm good at what I do. But you have those challenges that you have to be careful. You really have to be careful, because sometimes you can get involved in certain things in the city of Richmond, and it doesn't do you any good at all, really.
Question. As we honor Dr. King and his fight for economic justice, what role should entrepreneurship play in that shift?
Okay. Of course, getting to technology. Of course, I'm all over that. But piggybacking on what you ladies said about Black Restaurant Week and chaos and all of that, I get that. What you said about participating in events and the exposure and the return on investment, I get that. But what are you going to do to change that? You said, do they have classes to teach them how to do it? Are you going to set up a class to teach them how to do it? I'm willing, yeah. Right. What is the solution that we are going to produce? I'm all about, if there's a problem, I don't want to just complain about the problem. I want to bring a solution at the same time. Now, if they're not open to the solution, there is someone who may be, but at least you tried. So that's my take on it.
Sometimes you can give them, you're not giving them criticism, but you want to tell them how they can do it better. Some of them don't want to receive it sometimes. And you're standing back and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm trying to make it better for you. I have some connections. Would you kind of listen to me? But I'm finding out that a lot of them, they don't want it, because a lot of them want to say, I did this. It was me. And it's not always me. You always have to have somebody else, that can come in and to help you and to motivate you into doing what you need to do to make it successful. And that's the problem I have sometimes. I don't know about Dana. Sometimes they do the same thing to you. Yeah. And you try to give them that. I really do. And I'm not a type of person that really want to criticize them, but I will tell them what they're doing wrong, and so that they can correct it, because I'm very direct.
Just not trying to monopolize, but one more thing to add to that. I feel that in our communities, it is okay to praise publicly, and it is just as okay to give feedback privately. What I don't like to see is social media blowing up our Black businesses over one mistake. But you'll sit in a drive-through line at McDonald's at 2 a.m. in the morning with 6 cars in front of you just for you to get to the window to tell you you can't order your food. You're not blasting that. But you will sit down and blast that small business owner over one mistake that you could have talked to them personally about, and they would have been willing to change it. And when I see that one person blast you on social media, everybody else jumps on the bandwagon. We have to praise publicly and then criticize or offer feedback in a positive manner privately. And I think that would be so much appreciated.
So I wrote down 3 things for this question. One I would say would be to educate. Number 2, I wrote to show up, and I initially wrote down show up, but after the ladies continued to speak, I wrote show up in unity and partner together. And then number 3, excuse me, is to communicate. So educate is if for entrepreneurs who have any type of services, any type of programs, are these programs in schools? Are we educating the youth about the programs? Are we hosting any type of workshops? Are you partnering with the schools? Are we partnering with the churches? Are we partnering with other nonprofits? Are we passing out any type of brochures? How are we educating people about the services that we're providing, or just about the knowledge that we have? I know one thing that was really important to me was hosting free wellness classes, allowing people to come out and do exercise classes, educating people on social media about the things that I learned through school and just through my personal experiences about nutrition labels and about things that are so, to me, very simple, but that some people just genuinely do not know. So educating, and then I think communication kind of goes with that as far as letting people know that you have a business or you have a service, even if it's not officially a business, taking those steps to tell people about the fact that you want to start that business and what you're doing to prepare for it, so that people can come back to you and say, hey, what are you doing? I need this health and fitness, or I need this financial service, or I have a birthday party coming up. Do you know someone who I can work with? Or maybe your rates aren't what I have right now. Do you know anyone else that you can recommend for me? And being able to bring that partnership together. More so with partnership is kind of what you all spoke about with Black Restaurant Week. Sometimes we need to just partner together. Sometimes we need to come together and have a larger conversation about how we can divide out these resources so there isn't so much overwhelm, and then the community feels like they don't want to show up, or they have to show up a little bit later or a little bit after the fact. So I would say those are my three key points for that.
Okay, I think to further, we just need to teach and educate. That's look like the theme of it to keep it going, teach and educate. I myself personally teach like financial literacy, and I was talking about the life insurance deal and credit and so forth, so on. And I think we just need to share our gifts and our talents and teach others. And I talk about the home run and not. I mean, yeah, you got to get paid, but not trying to beat somebody in the head just to share our information. And the people who have it, we got to stop trying to just hold it to ourselves. And we got to just, teach that person, especially some of the younger folks. I've been in the school system and taught, kids that's coming out of, speak to kids that's coming out of high school about the life insurance industry. That's something that you don't need a degree. It costs them like $200-something for the exam and like another $35 to take the test, and you can make an abundance of money. Stuff like that. The things that people don't know about. My commercial cleaning business, I've taught plenty of guys, I've taught a lot of felons, so forth, so on, about how to use cleaning equipment, stripping and waxing the floor and carpet cleaning. I've done all of that. So these things that we need to teach people. And, our talents, we need to share them. Just like all the sisters said, educate others who may not know. You got so many of us that have so many talents. You got, sisters in the community that know how to do hair. They've been doing hair since they're 15 years old, but they don't know the actual techniques and, going to college and out of school and doing it the right way. Designer, the sister talking about, design it. You may have a young lady who real talent, got that raw talent, can put clothes together. Teach these people. Teach our fellow people in our community, and that's how we can keep it going.
Can I add something else to that? Just kind of to add on to what you said, it just brought up to my mind about also entrepreneurs kind of being more of a listener and looking and just seeing what's going on around us, because sometimes we're just waiting for the people to come to us and tell us what they need. But sometimes we just have to listen and hear what it is that people are saying that they need when they're sometimes too afraid to communicate that need, such as financial literacy. I mean, that's something that most people are going to be very uncomfortable to come and ask about. So, and even being uncomfortable with showing up to a course. So we have to have our listening ears on and kind of see what's going on around us, to pay attention to the needs of our people so that we can better serve them. And it doesn't always have to be in a classroom. If we're right here in this room right now, we're having a conversation and you pick up on something that someone says, oh yeah, let me tell you about this holistic doctor I just went to the other day that helped me with this, that, and the third. Let me text you their number really quick. It's a simple and easy thing, but it's about just listening to what it is that people need that sometimes we're too afraid to speak up and ask for.
All right. I like this question to end on, and here's why. If we are going to honor Dr. King's pivot and his strategy of advocating for blacks to economic justice, entrepreneurship has to be the foundation. It has to be the foundation. Do we have things we need to fix? Absolutely. My whole business model is set that I spend my days at the crossroads between black mental health and systemic racism, which often makes me a history buff because I had to start studying the history of how these things came about. When we say that everybody can't be an entrepreneur, that's social programming. That is social programming. Let's do the math for why I say that. Let's forget how long the earth has been around. We are now in the year of our Lord and Savior, 2025, which means that for at least since Jesus came, we ain't talking about the time before that. We can take the whole Old Testament out of this equation. But it's been 2,025 years since Jesus has walked this earth. It has only been popular to be an employee since the mid-1800s. We are socially programmed, and we are not going to be able to fight for our economic justice until we realize that we believe a strategy that's a little bit over 100 years old, over 2,000 years. And guess what? Wealthy people have not changed. The process for wealth has not changed. Wealthy people have lived by the same program all of their life. Self-sufficiency to someone wealthy does not mean I can afford to pay my bills. I'm going to say that again. And I know this may make some people uncomfortable, but we're not going to change if we don't get uncomfortable. Being able to pay your bills does not make you self-sufficient. You don't believe me? Ask those 300,000 people that had federal jobs 2 months ago that don't have those same federal jobs. They are learning they are not self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency can only come through one means: some form of entrepreneurship. Some form of entrepreneurship. You have to own something. You have to own rights to something. You have to own the process to something. So as we end the day, again, I want to challenge everybody that we all level up our role in economics in our community. If you have a skill or a talent that you don't make any money off of, if everybody in the family calls you because your corn pudding and your sweet potato pie have Thanksgiving lit, well, guess what? I love sweet potato pie, and I love corn pudding. I would greatly pay you for some corn pudding. You feel what I'm saying? But if you just sit there and do it for your family and you're not doing anything to market that, you're not winning. So I need everybody with a talent, if you're not making money off of it, step up. If you're self-employed, I need all my self-employed people to challenge ourselves to become business owners. Dana touched on it earlier. It's a book called The E-Myth. And I challenge everybody in this room to read that book, The E-Myth, because it steps on your toes as an entrepreneur. Because, as said, when you oppress a person so long, just saying, I'm the boss, feels good. And that's all you do. You own your job. That's it. That's all being self-employed is. You own your job. Because guess what? You still got to get up tomorrow, and if you don't show up, your business is closed. Right? That doesn't benefit your community. It may benefit you because you own your job. Comes with a little bit more flexibility than being a regular employee, but by that much. We need to challenge more people to become business owners, because business owner is the first place where you start to impact your community and your family. Because guess what? If I cut hair, I don't have but 2 hands. I can't cut for so many heads. But if I own the barber shop, everybody in there paying me. And if I open up another shop, everybody in that barber shop paying me. And I can duplicate that forever. Now guess what? I can walk away from cutting hair because I own my business. Whether I get up tomorrow morning, whether I cut another head another day in my life, I will continue to get checks from that. We have to understand that's the beginning of wealth. So let's understand the difference between rich and wealth as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King. Rich is accumulating a whole lot of money. Wealth is creating something that creates a whole lot of money. So we have to understand, even when we jump into the real estate game, one of the biggest mistakes we make is doing flips. Because when you grow up poor and that $100,000 hit your bank account, Lord, it feels good. But let me tell you the part that how you're going to see a therapist. When you ran through that $100,000, because now you got to fund the next project. Now, so this week, do whatever you want to do. In the very next week, you don't know if you got enough gas money to get to your next meeting, and you just had $100,000. Why? Because flipping is not a business. Flipping is being an entrepreneur, the self-employed, and because you can see a lot of money. It's not a system. It's not a system. You can't give flipping to your kids, right? Now I could buy an apartment building, and everybody in that apartment building got to pay rent, and I could pay a manager. Whether I ever do another flip in my life, get that rent money first, every month. That's wealth. So I need everybody with a talent, start a business. Everybody who's self-employed, become a business owner. Now, if you already are a business owner, got a challenge for you too. Churches need your money. NAACP, SCLC, all these organizations, they need your money. They need your money. Why? Because even when one person has money, we've seen firsthand, one person having money can't beat a whole system that don't want to see you win. You know how she would have won? If more black businesses would have showed up and said, if this doesn't happen, we're leaving. See, one person, they'll get rid of one of us. They don't care how much you got, ain't but one of you. And that's what they showed us. No matter how much she has done for this market for years before she discussed doing this. Because she was alone. She stood alone. We have to become a community of business owners who circulate finances back through things that support us, right? Churches, civic organizations. After that, you yourself need to go speak for your people. You need to become an advocate. You need to become a politician. Why? Because you came up in the community, you worked your way through it, and don't nobody know how to do it better than we do. All right? So everybody still excited? Do y'all feel a charge? Do you feel an obligation? All right. So I'm listening. I'm watching. I'm going to talk to Reverend Wendy because there's some things with the business directory that I want to do because we do need to educate our people. We do need to have classes for people who are already in business and to bring more people into that. So I'm going to make sure that here at Trinity, we step into doing those things, all right? Anybody in the crowd, y'all have any questions before we leave? Any questions?
Hello. This has been a good conversation to have, especially when we speak on other black businesses that we think should be doing whatever it is, right? But not to be a devil's advocate in church, but those sisters that have that business also have partnerships where they do help people start their LLCs and open businesses in Richmond. But I think to piggyback on everything you said, what I got from it is that we need to work on unity, right? We need to work on organizing, because if we don't organize, then we can't get anything done. All right, that means we have to come together. And like you said, Trinity is going to start that ball rolling and use these human resources in here that are in here today. And we're going to start doing those things like workshops, trainings for LLCs, financial literacy, and life insurance. Because we have the people we need right here. And that's what we need to start doing. I'm an educator, I'm an advocate, but I'm a volunteer, right? So I volunteer for those 20 activities that happen throughout the year in Richmond, that those black women who own those businesses put together. But time is money, so somebody has to put up the tents, somebody has to put out the tables, somebody has to clean up before and after, somebody has to do all those things, so it has to cost something. It has to cost somebody something. And so I feel like the charge today is for us to get together and create a Zoom or something. And let's just start this ball rolling, because we can talk all day, but we need to actually make some action happen. Thank you.
Agreed. Talk is cheap. Talk is cheap. Anybody got any more questions? If not, I'm going to let First Lady.
Thank you. These are wonderful talks, crucial conversation, and I'm so glad that we have a system there where it can be viewed at any time. My sister spoke about AI, I believe, right? Okay. That's important, and we need to stay relevant. I don't use it to say this, but I am 77 years old. Virginia Union is getting ready to have an intensive week just on AI. The dean over there, Dr. Guns, I'm waiting to hear. I had one of my little young people want to know, well, why you want to know about AI? I said, because y'all know about it. I need to know how to address y'all. And not only that, that AI will help us. She said we need to stop being afraid. That's very true. The computers came along and folk was afraid to even turn on the computer. They ain't all bad. There's some good stuff happening on the computer, but AI can also help you become an entrepreneur, can show you how to set up a business. Internet. AI will be the same. AI is, don't miss the opportunity. That's it. Don't miss it. I'm not going to miss it. So I'm speaking to my sisters and brothers who are over the age of 60, and you think that you are too old to learn. I ain't here to tell you you are not. And I know you got babies now, 2 years old.
My focus in second season success with AI is 60 plus.
I like that. Second season. I like that. So thank you so much for having these kinds of conversations, for bringing in people experts to help to educate us. I'm still learning. I will never get too old where I say I know it all, because you don't know it all. I always want to learn. There's always something I can learn, because I want to be, that's what I want to be.
I thank you. And first, I thank you for you and your husband allowing us this space, because none of this happens if you say, no, we can't do that. So let's start there, that we have leadership here that allows for us to be able to do these type of things. And it's very important that we have to get back. We can't get back to the community unless our leaders make that way. Speaking of which, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I'm headed down to MLK to march with the SCLC and a lot of other organizations, the Black Leadership Conference. A lot of groups are out there. That's why I got me a sweatshirt that got about 30 patches on. It's like a Mitchell & Ness jersey when I get out there. It's all black organizations that are coming out to march. So meet us at MLK at 2:30 at MLK, and we're going to march to the bell tower, and we're going to tell them, show us that money. Show us the money. I can fight. I don't need you to talk about my civil rights. I can fight. I don't need that. I need my money. I need them coins, all right? So let's make sure that we do our part to step into that. I thank everybody for coming out. I thank the panel. I thank everyone for doing what they do. I thank the people who come out. And let's get out. Let's spread the word. Let's make sure that we spread the word. Don't be a gatekeeper here. All right, let's take this information that we got today. Let's put it out. And next month, we're right back at it. First Sunday, another Crucial Conversations. We thank you.
Thank you.